Hey, everyone, and welcome in to the Tim and Jim Show. I'm Tim Sohn, hanging out here in Pennsylvania with Sohn Social Media Solutions. Jim Fuse, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Tim. It's down here in Marietta, Georgia, home of the still world champion Atlanta Braves, and they won last night, so I was happy because they were on a losing streak. 3 in a row is the first time they'd lost that many all season in a row. But
Oh,
yeah, it's been a little hot and humid, and as I'm training for my marathon,
yeah.
I'd
How's
like it
that
to be a
going,
little
Jim?
cooler. I'm on track. I'm on pace. Haven't missed any of my
Good.
runs, so
Let's
I,
all
I
let's all show love for Jim in the comment. Let's do like clapping emojis or something because that's
or a
amazing.
running emoji. How about
Yeah,
we
running
do it?
emojis. Go, Jim.
I did have to buy some new running shoes though. My shoes fell apart on Friday at the end of my run, so I had to go buy some new shoes.
Gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Yeah, but it's fun, right? That's what they say anyway. But yeah, if you're watching us, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. We've got a great guest. So Tim, are you ready to introduce our guest?
I'm ready. Who's our guest, Jim?
Well, we have an amazing, I'll say young lady, Deb Coman
Yes.
from Social Trust, and she is BuzzSumo said she's one of the top 100 content conversion strategists, which like that's
Wow.
sounds pretty big deal to me because gosh
Yeah.
knows we could all use help with that in this world. I met Deb through and I tell you about it all the time, Tim. There's this thing called Twitter. I know people think it's dead. Well, I'm sorry, you're
What
all
is that
wrong.
again? How does it go?
It's got this little blue bird, and
As a
yeah,
bird.
and they keep adding new features. And so Deb hosts Social Trust on Twitter Mondays at 3 p.m. Right? I get that right, Deb? And then she also does a Spaces on Wednesdays, not today because the guest couldn't make it, but she normally does it on Wednesdays. And so, but yeah, so social trust is a big thing. I think we all want to learn how to do that. There's so many, I guess I'll say charlatans out there that how do you do that? How do you get people to know, like, and trust you so that your business can grow? And so I love that. Oh, and Tim, I told you she showed up, so I got to do this. This is as Tim would say, radiating real. I want to say hello to my cousin Laura Fuller in Indiana. And Laura, thank you for showing up. So my dad and her dad had a falling out in the early 80s. We won't go into that on this episode. And unfortunately, all of us first cousins were the ones that suffered from it. And so I was doing the ancestry thing and I found, some of my cousins, and I reached out to her on Facebook, and she connected. And so thank you, Laura, for doing that. She said she was going to show up for the show. So she's here, hoping to go sometime in the not too distant future and visit my cousins in Indianapolis, Indiana area, because that's where I was born. For those of you who don't know, I was born a Hoosier. My dad was a Hoosier, but now I'm an Atlantean. I don't know, but Laura, thank you for showing up. Tell Danny and Don and everyone else I said hello. So there you go, Tim. I radiated real for you.
There we go. We got the sports segment out of the way. We got radiating not out of the way. Like that is so cool, Jim. That is super cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. But we're excited to have Deb on the show. So Deb, tell us a little bit about yourself. And you're muted, so there you go.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much, Jim and Tim. I'm so happy to see you and everyone in the audience. A lot of my friends are tuning in, and we have some shared friends, so thank you. Talk about radiating real. I love your family story, Jim, because that is a trust builder. Sharing that with your audience and your community lets them know just a little bit more about you that they may have not known before. So that's really beautiful that your radiating real is a trust building principle or practice. I'm going to back up just a little bit because I'm from central New York. New York is in the New York Mets, sorry to say. Originally from Long Island, need I say more, but okay on last night, Jim. We'll let that one go. Fun to be here with both of you and to talk about social trust. I could talk about it all day. I know we don't have all day, but happy to share some of the practices that I use, and many of us probably use naturally, but if we don't, there are ways to learn how to do that better to build trust with our audiences online.
Wow. So Tim, are you ready to get into the questions?
I'm ready. I'm in suspense.
All right. So question one, Tim, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. So Deb, what is social trust anyway? What does it mean?
I have a pretty simple definition of social trust, that it is the currency that we earn by building relationships online. And the way that we do that is through our content, and even more so through the way we engage with other people's content online.
And Tim,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Tim, what is your biggest place for social trust, do you think?
Social trust for me is, I mean, it's all about like building relationships with people online, right? And like you were saying, Deb, about engaging with people. So many times people get overwhelmed with creating content, but just by showing up in the comments of people's posts, that's content too, right? And you're building relationships with people. What do you think about that, Deb?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the number one strategy related to building trust, is to engage. And you're exactly right, Tim, that often as content creators, that's what we think we need to do. Like, we need to open up the social media platforms and put things out there that are of value. We certainly do need to do that. But the big issue is, like, why are people going to even pay attention, right? What is it that's going to get them to be interested in the content that we're putting out? And the first place to start is by engaging with what they're talking about already, and to enter into the relationship by circling in around their topics. I mean, obviously we can seek out what those topics are or who those people or brands are, and then join and add value that way. Because when we engage with people first, they're going to be more likely to take a look at and be interested in what we're going to then create. And there's just so many other benefits to it, because we're going to create something more relevant to them when we've spent time in the conversations and topics that our audience is interested in.
Yeah, I think that is so important, because it really is, right? This is building know, like, and trust, right? I've gotten to know, like, and trust Deb through Twitter, right? Through social interaction. We've never met in person. I mean, Tim, even you and I, when you think about the building of this show, right? We met online through another show, and I guess it was probably almost about a year or two before we actually met in person.
Yeah, I think it was somewhere around a year
Yeah,
until we met in person. And we've only met in person. We've only seen each other in person a few times
right.
in the total. We're going to be
Yeah.
celebrating 4 years of the show next week.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so
So yeah, so it really is. It's about social trust, and but I think I feel like I know Tim just like if we lived next door. But if Tim lived next door, he might not like all the noise we make sometimes on the weekend, but that's okay.
I'd love to know from you two, when you met for the first time in real life, did you feel that this was a new thing, or did you? How was that moment?
what do
I
you
thought
think,
it was
Jim?
really cool. I mean, it was Christine Gritmon got the picture, so she was all excited. But it was like I felt like it was like seeing an old friend. It wasn't like, oh, who's this guy? Um, and I think because we do the show together and because we are, we spend time like, before the show, after the show talking, it wasn't like, oh, he's not the way he is in person or online, right? Because we know each other from all the conversations we have in running the show. So I think to me it seemed like, oh, I finally get to see him in person, and that was really fun.
Yeah, and
What
I
about
would
you,
Yeah.
Tim?
say, yeah, I'd love to hear yours. Was that similar for you, Tim?
Yeah, definitely similar. And Jim is definitely the same in real life as he is on the show. I can vouch for that. He's the same amazing human being in real life. And yeah, it's just so great to see him in person and have conversations in person. And um, I think it just solidified our friendship and collaboration even more, and more so each time we see each other in person.
Yeah. I love that because to me, that's like the embodiment of social trust, that you two do show up as you would in real life, so that when you did meet in real life, there was no break in that sense of continuity. And it does happen sometimes. We probably experience the other, where we feel like we kind of know somebody online, and then we meet them in real life and we don't feel that same connection. So perhaps they were not, building trust, or they were not being authentic, or whatever that may be. But I've had that same experience meeting someone online, and we, like you two, we worked together, but all online for years. And when we met in person, I actually had to say, wait a minute, is this the first time we're meeting each other? Like, the
Yeah.
feeling was like visceral, like, wait a minute, no, like, we know each other, we know everything about each other, and the personal as well as the professional. And that's because we spent time building trust online. So I was just curious. Thanks so much for sharing how it felt for you too.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like the first time I went to social media marketing world was after spending a lot of time as part in the Twitter Smarter chat, but I wasn't even a part of the greeter team yet. I was just, another participant. And so meeting Madeline, meeting Dr. I and Zala and Sabrina Cadini in person was so cool because it was like you feel like you already knew them, right? And I think you bring up a great point, Deb. And maybe that's where Twitter's different because I feel like in Twitter, because most of the time we're using 280 characters. I think actually back then it was 140. You're really expressing yourself, right? And so it's kind of hard to type something and not be you. I mean, I guess unless you have a ghostwriter doing your tweets. And so I think that's where that connection really I think is solid. But you wonder sometimes with video, like what we're doing now, where maybe somebody comes on with a video and it's like they're acting, right? Like I'm putting on a performance, because I can read tape it if I don't like it. But then when they're in person, they can't do that second act and like, oh, this is really you. And you're either, and I think a lot of us, right? You get disappointed when someone's not the same in person as they are online in a bad way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
people blow you away in person, even more so than they do online. But I think that's a great point, right? It's just like be yourself, be authentic, and I mean, what do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And Kim, who's watching on LinkedIn, said exactly what you said, Jim. She said, be your authentic self. And
Nice.
yeah, I don't know what else I can say. It's so true. And
Oh,
I
that
think
that must be LinkedIn user.
yes, LinkedIn. Yeah, I looked over on LinkedIn. I lurked over on LinkedIn. It says Kim helping small business something or other. So thanks for being here, Kim, and everyone.
Awesome. And I like Stefan's comment too.
Yes.
Engagement is another huge part of great content, well-rounded content, meaningful content. Engagement brings that to the foreground. So true, Stefan. And thank you for being here. Stefan's always a great supporter of the show, and good to see him here today.
And I got to see him in real life just recently, which was really good. He's a good friend of mine, and we don't get to see each other that often. We only live about 2 hours apart, but I was in the area for a medical appointment, and he wasn't that far away. So I said, hey, I'm going to be in the area. And we spent a nice time going on a hike in a nature preserve. And there's another example.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So are you ready for question number 2, Deb?
I am.
Suffer. How does someone or a business start to build social trust?
So just like Stefan said, it's exactly around engagement, and as I was saying earlier, that we tend to think of the need to create content, particularly around social media. But in fact, the way I really dove into this process was when my scheduled content and my planned content was kind of slowing down. And on Twitter, we all know, like, it's pretty fleeting. So we want to kind of have a presence there. And I said, well, let me just get in there and see what's going on. And I just started engaging more. I mean, I had always engaged, but it was now the only thing I was doing for a bit. And what happens is exactly what was just shared earlier, that people will then respond in a meaningful way when you pick the right conversations, the right people, and give them meaningful replies or retweets and shares. And this can happen on any platform. It's not unique just to Twitter, but I think it happens more quickly on Twitter. So that when you then come back to the platform, now you have all these started conversations that are a little bit further with people who know how to extend the conversation versus, oh, thanks, that's great, have a great day. Those are kind of, it's okay to do that, but they can be conversation stoppers. Whereas we have opportunity there to say, well, oh, I love what you said there. Here's what happened to me. And then they might say, oh, I have had that too, and keep things going. So I'm going to I don't know if that's my tab that's making that noise. Sorry, but
we don't hear it.
Oh, good. Okay. So we have that opportunity. And then when we come back, it's not like, okay, what am I going to post now? It's let me pick up all these conversation threads and keep them going. So we certainly do want to create our own content and keep that value going out there. But what I loved about being one of 100 people chosen by BuzzSumo is that it was all based on engagement data. I was completely shocked. That was really, I had just kind of started doing more of this, and someone reached out to me and said, I see you in this article. I said, oh no, that's not me. What are they talking about? And I looked and I said, what the heck, and then I was mostly fascinated by that they used the engagement data. And the people who were replying more than they were posting, the people who had less links and were sharing others. And it was, it just validated what I was experiencing already. So that's what I love most about that, thing to celebrate, is that it just goes to show that it does have relevance, and that then when we do create content, it's more meaningful because we've been in those conversations and we can now present it in a way that we are inviting people to talk with us about it. We're not just broadcasting. Here's the latest show. Here's the podcast I was on. Here's my blog. That's just one way communication. And that's not a trust builder. as fast or effectively as meaningful exchange of information.
I think that's such a powerful, statement, Deb. I mean, I think, and Tim, I know we all see this all the time where people maybe they're just starting out and you see they all share like their, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. They feel like they've got to put content out every day to be relevant. And it's like, I think, like Deb said, if you're just starting out, engage, just have a conversation with people. And then maybe you'll start to feel more comfortable with, okay, what kind of content should I put out? Like Deb said, okay, now when I put content out, because I've been engaging with other people and supportive of them, now they're going to be supportive of me or my business. And I think, uh, I think, even all this stuff with all these video type platforms, people feel like this stress and this pressure, like, oh, I've got to be putting, a TikTok out. I got to do this. I got to do that. No, you don't. The only one that's making you think that is all the noise, right? Just be yourself, engage, do things at your own pace and your own terms. I think that's one of the things that, and I think with social trust, I mean, when you see these businesses, if somebody, whether it's a complaint or a compliment, they respond quickly, professionally, and accordingly, and people like, wow, they got back to me fast. They win fans by doing that, and they lose fans when they don't.
Absolutely. And when we're having those conversations at whether it's a big brand responding to a customer complaint or challenge or smaller brands, we have to remember that it's not just the exchange between those two people who might be tweeting with each other or posting on Facebook or whatever. Everyone else is watching that. So you're building trust when you handle it the right way with the watchers who are just seeing how do you respond to a complaint or a question or whatever. So there's so much value in just being who we are, taking everything with it the same degree of importance, like whether someone has a big following or not, or you know to be supportive and to step in and help other people do well and reach more people online. That goes a long way to being seen as someone who's supportive. And then you're right, Jim, when you have something you're sharing, you don't have to ask people to share it most of the time because they want to find an opportunity to give back. And that's really one of the amazing benefits about building social trust is that you create this community regardless of how small you are or how many followers, community that cares about you and then cares about bringing your message to more people.
Right. And we got a question from my friend Brian Kennedy. Do you see commenting as a means to establishing trust as much as posting that leads to real engagement and not solicitation?
Yes, so meaning commenting to establish trust. I do think it's the fast track to establishing trust. Um, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that last part. We
Oh, I
can
think
post,
sometimes
yeah.
maybe if people like in the comments are like soliciting, like,
Okay. Oh, yeah. So meaning in the comments, soliciting or not. Yeah. You have to be careful, right? Like having an opportunity to share something is not necessarily the greatest place to go in and say, "Oh, I have a course on that, and here's the link." I mean, people do that, and it can be a trust eroder because even if you're well intended, it looks like you're trying to solicit, promote, get people to pay attention to you. And again, maybe you've seen this too, Jim and Tim, but particularly on like Twitter chats and things like that. You want to kind of make sure you are contributing to the expert and the host and not detracting. So often hosts will say, I do this with people that come into my Twitter chat. Would you share your chat time and topic? We don't have to do that, but we never want to bring that into the conversation. let other people say it, and if it's appropriate. And half the time I've seen it happen where people share something and someone else was just about to do it. Like I would have done it for them of, hey, tell us about your course that you have that addresses this. That's a much more natural way of showing up to bring value and support versus being the one to say it. So you do have to take care with that. And when you just help and support through the commenting, and then later you're going to go and post about your course, that's a way to do it. That's not, stepping right in there or plotting into the conversation. You want to have good communication skills, and you want to be seen as someone who's supporting. And that's why it's easier to help people to do this when that's their natural tendency. That's not always everyone's natural tendency, and they may have to do a little bit of unlearning, and and being willing to kind of take a different tactic when they show up. In fact, it's not really a tactic, it's kind of dropping the tactics and just showing up the way you would if they were in the room with you. How would you share? How
Yeah,
would
and
you
he
be
also said,
value?
yeah, soliciting in poster comments.
Yeah, you really shouldn't be. I don't think at all. I don't think there's really a place for it. I think if someone asks you or someone else says, "Hey, Jim, why don't you let them know about that?" "Oh, thank you so much. That's great. Yeah, if you want to learn more." And you could say, reach out. You don't have to put a link. You can say, let me know if you're curious or interested. So it's definitely an opportunity there. And we can really make the most of it when we don't solicit and we don't put ourselves in the spotlight.
I've noticed lately, I don't know if you have, Tim, to your point, Deb, I've started to see more of this behavior where people are, it's almost like they're spamming your post with something completely unrelated. And
Yeah,
it's a
I've
turn
seen
off.
that a lot.
Yeah,
In fact,
yeah,
at least on Facebook, it lets me delete the comment. And I've done that to some people. I don't even, you know, it's like if it was my post, I'm deleting that. I've even seen like these, I'll just call them weird crypto people, like post stuff on pages about like, hey, get your crypto advice here. And it's like, do you really think people are going to, respond to
yeah,
that? I don't understand it. It's,
yeah.
spamming to the nth degree.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, I mean, poor either training or learnings or just people trying to find their way. I'm a big proponent of watching what other people are doing and seeing getting in touch with my own response when someone shows up a certain way. Do I feel pulled in and drawn in, like I want to learn more? Or do I feel like, oh, that's kind of a turnoff? And those, we need to really pay attention to that, much like Gail's saying, we have to show up, right? We have
Right.
to show up, but we don't show up with our links, right? Gail shows up, and it's not to drop her link, it's to kind of support and to add value. And that's what we all want to do more of.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jim, I do see that. People popping in. And in fact, when I'm hosting a guest on a particular topic, and people come in and they say, well, I do that too, here's my link, and they haven't been participating in the conversation at all. I'm hoping they just don't know any better, but they just may see the tweet conversation and think, oh, here's how you can get on my calendar. Like that's not going to really get you anywhere, and it's probably doing a lot of damage. And what I talk about is a lot of eroding social trust when people are showing up that way.
Right. And I love this comment from Stefan. He's been very active today. Likes are not engagement. Posting is not engagement. Engagement is real conversation, getting to know others and them getting to know you. It goes both ways. And it's funny because sometimes I've talked with people that, especially I'll say on LinkedIn, they're like, well, I'm trying to get more engagement on LinkedIn with my post. And it's like, but are you engaging with people on their post?
Yeah.
Well, I don't
It-
have time for that. Well, then why should they have time for you?
yeah.
I'm going to say it.
And you don't have time not to do it. It's hugely effective. And as Stefan says, we tend to think about engagement as, how do I get people to engage with my stuff? Because that's how most of us were taught initially. how do we market? We want people to respond back to what we put in out there. So we are trying to spark engagement around our content. But really, excuse me, it's the other way around. Let's continue to fan the flames of their engagement or support them when they don't have a lot of engagement. Be the one that steps in and shares your own influence, your own audience, and invite other people into the conversation, so that's more meaningful. And that's what true engagement is. So then, yes, when you do post, you don't have to have an engagement prompt, because people just want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. And I love this comment by Patricia, because I think we've all seen this where, all of a sudden somebody's spamming you in your DMs, like, hey, how's it going? I got this new thing you might want to try out. And, and it's because they're all being put on this pressure to sell something, because, if they do, they're going to make millions of dollars. And not to say that some of these programs aren't successful, but it still goes back to build trust. Maybe just, and it amazes me how many people won't even do like we're doing right now. Do a video talking about whatever it is, share it on your personal profile, and people will watch it, and then they might reach out to you and say, hey, I'm really interested in this thing you educated me about. Let's take the
Yeah.
next step, as opposed to kind of forcing it on people. And I don't know about you, you two, but I know recently, and it wasn't necessarily intentional, but like I've shared some stuff that was more, I guess you could say, personal, not business related. And I was amazed at the amount of, either feedback or views I got, as compared to like if I shared something about business. It's like sometimes it can be crickets. Have you
Yeah.
guys seen that as well?
Oh yeah. I all the time. In fact, that's what one of the strategies or the suggestions I have for people about building social trust is to do just that. We can't fake it. We can't contrive to show who we really are. But when we think, oh, I'm training for a marathon, why don't I share a little bit about how that's going, right? Now people who either one, do marathons, admire you for doing the marathon, or just feel like, oh, I didn't know that about you, Jim. I'm so excited to hear more. They feel like they know you better. So for some of us, we have to just step back and think, well, there's probably a whole lot more I could be sharing. I just didn't think it was relevant to my business, but it's relevant to building trust with your audience, because it also tends to show what your values are, what's
Right.
important to you. What do you do in your spare time? Because when people hire us to help us with the thing that we help them with, it's got to be a given that we can help them get what they need and get them good outcomes. But they're also interested in how we're going to deliver that, right? If they're coming into a
Right.
group program with us, or they're working one-on-one, they care. How do we communicate? What are things that are important to us, and how we show up online, and how we're going to engage with them. So they get to see a window into that when they see how we engage with other people on the social media platforms and in their emails and everywhere else our content shows up. And video is an extraordinary example that more people, should be considering to some degree. They may not be able to have a whole show, but when they can post video that's them in the reel, that is a trust builder, because people get to experience you way more fully than a static little headshot that might have been taken 10 years ago. And that's
Yeah.
why social audio works. People love to hear your voice. They say, oh my goodness, it's just another dimension to experiencing you as a person, not just a brand.
Oh, that is so awesome. And so we're going to take a quick moment to hear from our friends at StreamYard, and then we're going to be back with a final question for Deb.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome back to the Tim and Jim Show. We're here with Deb Coman, and we're talking all about social trust today. Thank you all. We see you all who are tuning in. Stephen Kaplan, Gail Robertson, Joanne Kroll, Alan Hennessy from overseas. So many of you are here. Thank you, whether you're here live or on the replay. Jim, where do we go from here with this conversation?
Well, before you ask her the final question, I did want to bring up this comment from Joanne. The DM spams are the worst. I particularly roll my eyes at people who say, let's chat to see how we can help each other on first contact. And also the ones who ask me my goals. I could not agree more. And I've had some recently, I know about you, where I made the mistake of accepting their connection. And I guess then somehow they get my email address and I'm getting emails like, and sometimes at least weekly, if not more, like, hey, let's talk. And I'm like, you have no idea what my business does, because there's no relation between what you do and I do that, you're going to help me, or, do you need HR help, Tim? I know some people that will DM you how they're going to help you with your HR
I
problem.
definitely need HR for my huge team I have over here.
And then Stefan says that, he was telling a prospective client that people want to get to know the real you, not just your book. We're all brands, but must go beyond the aesthetics of the brand. Who are you? And so Stefan's on a roll today. He needs to write a book, I think.
Yeah, Stefan, write that book.
And
definitely.
So, Tim, question number 3 for Deb.
Yes, Deb, what are some tips to creating trust building content?
It's a lot of what we talked about here today and touched on is how can we, and each person, each business owner and brand needs to take a step back and think about, what do we value? What's important to me? What can I share that will tell people about how I do the work I do, not just what I do and what I deliver, but what do they get when they experience me? So things like, and again, everyone's different with their comfort level on this. So, but as much as they can, if you can show your face, if you can talk about what you do in your non-work time, if you're comfortable sharing, do you have a family? Do you have pets? Are you into fitness or health food, or what books do you like to read? And it really opens up that door to more conversation. And you might think, well, that's not about business. Like, what is the point? That's just kind of fluff. But it's not. As we've talked about a lot here today, it allows people to build rapport with us and have meaningful conversation that goes both ways. That not only are we expressing who we are, but we're seeking that out in our audience too, because it helps us know more about not just what their challenge is, but what do they care about? And that also gives, examples into how they might like to be supported, and what things they're most interested in. It's a real rounding out of who we are as people. So I do help people get started, because not everyone knows, well, exactly what do I do? What are those things? And it's things like behind the scenes of the brand. What do you do in your morning before you start your workday? What are the strategies that help you to stay on task with things, or follow up with people, or what do you look forward to doing on the weekend? I mean, just a list of things that you can fall back on when you're not sure how to start those conversations. So step 1 would be get into the ones that are already happening and engage with the ones that are on there, but also how do you bring your piece into it, would be starting to share about some of these topics. And then they can also be standalone posts that you create. But again, it starts with building that trust before promoting the brand, promoting, the services, or inviting people in. We want to kind of first create that connection piece that leads to relationship, and then learn to take it further, take it into DMs in a way that feels good to people, that feels genuine. That's because you want to have a more private conversation that might lead to one-on-one. Don't jump in there first and say, let's talk. Even though your intentions may be good, not everyone is pushing, but they don't always think about how that feels on the other end.
And this is a tremendous compliment to you from Patricia Fox. I can tell you from firsthand experience with Deb, what made me trust her most is that she shares tremendously valuable knowledge for free. Makes me want to know more of what she knows. And I would have to agree, Patricia, 110%, right? I know people don't like that sometimes when we say, give 110%, because you can't get more than 100,
Oh,
but I'm going to give 110% on that one.
that means so much to me. Thank you, Patricia. I'm so happy that you're here, and I appreciate hearing that back. And that's what I hope to do. I mean, we need to be willing to give more and to support other people. And it's not always about the sale. So one of the other things I help people to do is set an intention for connection. When you're posting, when you're engaging, think, pause, reflect, and set that intention to connect, not like, oh, wow, this would be a really good person to get into my program. They might be, but if you lead with that, I can guarantee they're probably not coming in. And Joanne, so good to see you here too. A lot of my friends. And why are they here, right? Some because maybe they hang out on LinkedIn, some because I said, hey, I'm going to be with Jim and Tim. I'd love you to be there too. And I thank you so much to so many of you who have showed up today. It means a lot to me, and I want to be at your things too. That's the other thing. If we don't have the time to reciprocate, then it's not really going to work the way it needs to work. It's really not fair. And we need to kind of help support the people who are also supporting us. So keep that two-way street going of connection and building trust.
And I'm going to share in the chat for everyone. Deb's got a gift for us all, and that is 21 trust building conversation starters. And because StreamYard and LinkedIn don't always get to along, I'm also putting that in the posting that over in the chat as well. So hopefully you guys will take advantage of that, because
I am.
it's some great stuff. Yes,
For sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love to be connected with people further. And that's really what it's about. Is like I said, some people could just sit down and make up their own list, and some say, I'm not sure how to get started. What's relevant? What's good? And it can be nice to kind of have a menu to choose from and a starting point, so you're not staring at a blank screen or wasting time coming up with things. So it's mostly just to spark some ideas of your own. You could use them as they are, or they may get you to generate a bigger, longer list that you can then use anytime you're opening up, not just the social media platforms, but we could spend a whole lot of time talking about emailing your list. Same thing. What are you emailing them about? What kind of stories are you telling? Here's your list to kind of give you some starting points and help you do that.
Very true. And so Tim, any final thoughts on these tips on how to get some content to build some trust?
Yeah, this has been a really great conversation, and the point that you said, Deb, about creating content that's more personal really resonates with me. I create content that's, well, for a while I've shared content about, I love going out in nature and taking walks in nature, and I get so many comments and direct messages from people that tell me that that they enjoy it also. So it's just like, it's a point of relatability between people too, right? Creating that kind of content.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then I'm sure you'll find, Tim, people probably pull you into conversations all the time for what you do. But now they're going to pull you in and say, hey, Tim, look at this out in nature. You probably would love this, or this looks like the place that you shared, or do you know of it? Right. You have all these more, a bigger opportunity for further connections. And that's what helps us expand beyond our little circles into other circles. Much like what happened with Jim and I, meet with mutual friends or a mutual contact or conversation that happens on Twitter, and then show up in other places together. And that's what's kind of happened, is people get to kind of follow each other around, and we can be more active and initiate pulling those other people in. When you're talking online, say, oh, who would love this? Who would have something to say about this? Tag them, bring them in, make a connection for people. And it's really rewarding and fun too. It makes social media just feel like, a
Social?
party, a party 24/7. Yeah, social, right? Like our friend Lori Anding says, be social on social, people. It's not rocket science. Just, show up, be yourself, have some fun with it. It's not all about how do I make a sale today? It really needs to be, how do I make some connections that are going to be meaningful to me and meaningful to the other people as well.
Yes, very true. So, Tim, you've got a big event coming up. You want to share with us?
Sure, I'd love to. So coming up on September 10th, the first ever in-person. So Deb, I host a show on Tuesdays at 3:00 Eastern time now called Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, speaking about personal content. I'm a 15-year cancer survivor, and I created this show. We just had the 40th episode yesterday. And so an extension of the show is we're having our first ever in-person event in September in Pennsylvania here. So and it's free. We've partnered with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and Jim has sponsored the event, and so many people have come on board as sponsors so that we can provide this event for free. So the event's for cancer patients, cancer survivors, cancer supporters to come together and share their stories in person and feel inspired and support each other. So if anybody's interested in coming, it is you can sign up at perspectivesoncancer.com, and people are already signing up, and they're coming from all over the country and even Canada, Jim.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is me. And I'm excited for you. I think this is just the start for what you're doing with this. Like I've told you, I think what you're doing with the show is amazing because you're hitting an area that is conversations need to be had, and you're taking that head on, and it's not easy. I know a lot of times there's tears. You got me crying one time
Open
during
your
the
hearts and
24
wallets.
thing. So
Yeah.
that wasn't fair, but that's okay.
And when you host a cancer show and cancer events, you always have to have the pups nearby. It's a given rule.
Are they a sponsor yet?
They're not yet. But Jim, thank you for all of your support, your donations, we did a special Tim and Jim show during Deb. We had done a 24-hour live stream fundraiser in March for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and so we had a special edition of the Tim and Jim show that I had a conversation with Jim about his connection and perspectives on cancer, and he interviewed me as well. So
Wow.
thank you for all of your support, Jim. It means so much to me.
Yeah, and make sure you all connect with Deb. I've got her website down below. And if you're not on Twitter, maybe now it's time to start, just so you can be there next week for Social Trust at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All you have to do is search for the hashtag Social Trust, and you'll see the conversation, because that's what you do in a Twitter chat. Tim, exciting times for us next week. Our 4th anniversary show with Kim Garst, who is probably one of the most followed people in social media. And so we're really excited to have her on. It's like I told Kim the story. I was on her show a few weeks ago talking about Amazon. When I was first learning social media, she had a group that she taught all of us how to do that. And this was like back in 2016. So
wow,
it's interesting seeing how things can come full circle if you are just consistent and stick at something. Just like I know someday maybe somebody watching this show will have their own show, and maybe they'll interview us, and that would be really cool.
Hint, hint.
So hint, that's right.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have Kim on. I watch so many of her shows every week, and I've even won a few mugs, so I'll have to bring my mugs with me.
And there you go. Go. Well,
but
we want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank my cousin, and I didn't share the comment, but she did say she loved the show, and so she's stuck around the whole time. So to my cousin Laura, thanks for tuning in. You said you'd do it. As Gail would say, you showed up. I definitely appreciate that. Now, if I get the rest of my siblings to watch the show once in a while, right, I'd really, we'd be doing great. But thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week, same time. And who knows, maybe there'll be some giveaways next week. We'll have to see.
Stay tuned. You got to be here.
That's right. You got to be here. Be here, or I guess don't be here. I don't know. Thanks again,
Just be
Deb.
here. Just be.
This has been great, and we'll see you all next week on the Tim and Jim Show. Take care, everyone.